We all have certain expectations when it comes to watching anime, especially shonen. If you are a shonen fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These things can equate to being cliches in the stories, but sometimes these are the reasons that we like it in the first place. I myself am doing a series on anime cliches, but even then I'm doing the more obscure ones, and at that I'm only like chipping at the tip of the iceberg when you think about it. But in my essentially, not even going to say research, but essentially, while sitting down one day watching what happens to be one of my favorite scenes in Dragon Ball Z, which is when Gohan turns into Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, beautiful, um, it hit me. I had an epiphany about the entirety of the Dragon Ball Z series. Now, the thing is that I am one of those people who separate Dragon Ball Z from Dragon Ball. Now, a lot of people like to talk about how much better Dragon Ball was in comparison to Dragon Ball Z, but I ain't one of those people, man. Um, I fell in love with Dragon Ball Z way before I even seen all the episodes of Dragon Ball. I watched it when it came on Toonami. Hell, I was even there for the um, crazy and abrupt voice actor change that happened in the middle of the Ginyu saga, right when Goku was fighting Berter and Jace. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. Because right when Funimation got the rights to do the dubbing, that's immediately where they stopped it in showing like the voice actor change. So, needless to say, I've been a fan for a very long time. But the thing is that Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z have very, very big differences in terms of the overall tone of the show, as well as the overall consensus as what the main characters are striving for, what they want, or what they're trying to accomplish. But the thing is that in Dragon Ball Z, there's a lot more that's going on with it that essentially a lot of people don't even think about for the most part because they kind of have a face value understanding of everything that is Dragon Ball Z when it comes to actually talking about it or equating to it. Hell, I dare you to ask someone who grew up watching Naruto, who probably knows the story of Dragon Ball Z, to actually explain or whether or not admit that they've seen every episode of Dragon Ball Z. You'd be hard pressed to find a lot of people who grew up in current anime viewership who actually have seen every episode of Dragon Ball Z. But at the same time, they know all the episodes. Weird, right? But hey, it happens. So I came across with this understanding, realistically, that within Dragon Ball Z, or within Shonen, if I may put it, there are a lot of incidents in which which enemies become friends. Now, this is a major running theme within Dragon Ball. Hell, even the beginning of Dragon Ball Z equates to a person who was considered the antithesis villain actually becomes a friend after the events that take place within the very beginning of the series. But that's the weird thing, is that most shonen actually copy this format. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that this all comes from the Journey to the West story, which is what a lot of Eastern storytelling is based off of. And the concept of characters who initially showcase or appear in front of the main character as villains or as negative or bad guys or anti-heroes or whatever will eventually become friends that then help them on the journey. Now, the monk initially has to conform the Monkey King in order to help him follow him. And during the journey is actually when the Monkey King becomes a more mellow and controlled being. His ideas and his wants to actually help the monk. I do not know how to pronounce his name. Is that Hirokata? Something like that. Like that actually takes place during the journey. But initially, the Monkey King is very displeased with serving him, as well as incredibly agitated. And there's multiple times in which he leaves the group because he doesn't understand exactly why or how the monk can have these ideas and these views, dependent upon the fact that a lot of people are trying to kill him and eat them. And it's like, how could you be so positive? How could you still be so trusting? How could you let these people in without a moment's hesitation when you know for a fact that there's demons lurking everywhere disguised as humans who could possibly try and kill you? And it was just a testament of the monk that persevered over that mindset, in which is that you give everyone a chance. It was the way of the Buddha. It was the reason he was trying to pass on the scriptures in the first place. It all mattered in the grand scheme of everything within the story, thus made for a wonderful collection of allies who eventually were turned by the good nature of all those characters. The pig guy and the water demon, hell, even the dude who turns into the horse that the monk rides on. All of these people were basically persuaded not by force, but just by general ideals. And if you think back to anime, that happens a lot within Shonen. Hell, a majority of characters within Naruto just have ideal clashes rather than force clashes, and it becomes the epitome of whether or not your ideals are stronger than mine, or you have the ability to back up what you want better than I can, and proves whether or not someone is right or wrong within the series. You know, that realistically you can sympathize with both characters, but only one of you can be perceived as right and only one of you can be perceived as wrong. But who's it going to be is the reason I'm watching this conflict in the first place. But therein lies the problem, is that Shonen has degraded itself into a point of constantly having this happen without there being any remorse for the actions. Now, most series, giving you an example of Naruto, is it really has a major theme of pulling the whole used to be an enemy, now you're a friend motif, but it happens all the time. And it happens so much that it gets to the point where realistically, by the end of the series, no character was really all that bad by the grand scheme of things, in terms of according to everyone else within the series. A long running character who was considered an incredibly horrible bad guy was Orochimaru, who by the end of the series not only had a son, but was allowed to be back into the village, despite the fact that he did horrible experiments on other people, did a taboo art in which he was trying to figure out his own, which he was trying to become immortal, as well as he tried to make himself the Hokage, despite the fact that that's against the rules of actually becoming a Hokage. But by the end of the Naruto series, because he had a change of heart, he was welcomed back into the village with open arms. Orochimaru is responsible for murdering of so many people, as well as being the main proprietor as destroying and killing the third Hokage, being around to usurp, helping out the Akatsuki once upon a time, as well as doing a plethora of other horrible things that put his name within the Bingo book, which is, by the lore of the Naruto series, something in which once you're a part of, you kind of have to die. So, why exactly was that something that happened? Well, considering the fact that Orochimaru wasn't the only person who had this redemption concept by the end of the series, Itachi, a long-standing rival and the reason behind everything Sasuke wanted to defeat, turned out to be just a misunderstood brother who happened to really love his younger brother. I mean, he was really, really, really misunderstood, but misunderstood nonetheless. Pain, a person who essentially was Naruto if he just happened to go bad, at the end of everything, died with him realizing that Naruto was a better prospect of ideals than he did. But Pain also was left to go with thinking that he did okay, or that he forgave himself, or that it was okay for Naruto to forgive him, despite the fact that he killed Jiraiya, a long-standing favorite character within the series. Hell, Pain was even brought back to life, in which he still redeemed himself again by helping people defeat him because he knew how strong and how powerful he was. But that was a major theme within Naruto, is that it just kept happening, that no matter who the bad guy was, they kept getting forgiven, they kept being redeemed. No matter how crazy or ridiculous the crimes were committed, they should still be given a chance. They should still be let go. We should still hope that they will do better. There's no clear-cut evidence or proof that these characters will stick to this mindset or the path that they were given, but we're just supposed to be left to believe that they will. They might. Who knows? Now, you can say, well, in the Boruto series it says that or whatnot, but I'm not talking about that. I'm speaking on terms of the series that was laid out. Much like how what I'm going to be speaking about in Dragon Ball Z only pertains to Dragon Ball Z. Super, as far as I'm concerned, is non-existent. It's not real. In fact, it completely starts off with a contradiction, therefore everything that previously comes after it is thereby stupid. But it's just the actual show itself, not something that you can look upon later and try to improve or add on or fix or clarify later. No, you were given everything that you was given at that point in time. Whether or not you wish to look back and try and fix it, hey, that's all up on you, but at the same time, you did what you did in the first place. So let's just stick with that. And much to what I was saying about Naruto, you have Gaara, a character who solely was about murdering and killing and just not understanding the concept of love, completely forgiven, was turned into a good guy, an ally who then would even help someone who he horribly crippled, who basically only had the prospects of fighting using his arms and his legs in order to be anything. He horribly crippled him that would make it to where he couldn't even practice the one thing that he had going for him in order for him to be equated as a regular ninja, who then was miraculously healed, because why not? But at the same time, again, there's just so many different moments within Naruto where characters are just seemingly redeemed. Obito, one of the main proprietors behind everything bad that was going on, even so far as to kill the fourth Hokage and his wife and lead Naruto on the horrible life, familyless life that he grew up to live, was then seeing the error of his ways right before his demise, and then was ultimately sort of pseudo-forgiven. But that just kept constantly happening within Naruto, where everyone was just kind of forgiven, let go, thrown to the wayside. It's just, hey, they either live long enough to see themselves die a villain, or they become a good guy. There's no other two ways about it. Now, you might say to yourself, what about the Akatsuki? All of those were bad guys and everything like that. Well, I'm not talking about minions or lackeys or people who were brought on in the mix. I'm talking about the majority. I'm talking about the big guys, the front runners, the main people who were responsible behind making sure moves happen. Hell, you can say the same thing of the people who were brought back to life with the Edo Tensei, but at the same time didn't actually want to fight or even understand why they were brought back in the first place, but were unaware or unable to control their actions and still was trying to help out their fellow clansmen, but still massively murdering all of them. Would they be considered evil and whatnot? It's like, well, no, they're all under the guise of the main leader. Much like, I'd say, essentially equate the Ginyu Force to the Akatsuki in the scenario of what I'm bringing up. Yeah, excuse me. But well, what exactly are you getting at, Daniel? What the hell are you trying to say? You just been breaking down Naruto stuff. Well, what I'm trying to get at is the fact that Dragon Ball Z did something that not a lot of shonen, actually, I can't think of any shonen that really has done the exact same thing, which is to deliver the mindset and the understanding that that's not a realistic characterization of people in general. You're not going to go through life and meet people who can be shown the error of their ways. No one will ever see someone who will just immediately, through a difference of ideals, will completely put a full stop to their current lifestyle in order to make themselves feel better appreciative of your ideals on their current lifestyle. That just doesn't happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it doesn't really happen. Not in the ways that shonen anime depicted. Hell, even in Bleach, just bringing more examples, in the Bleach series, the enemies were brought upon as the captain of the Gaudi 13 eventually became all good guys. And then all of the survivors of the Espada all became good guys, as well as the and then you had characters like Uryu, who initially started off as a villain and then was let go despite his ideals and his wants being different from what Ichigo actually was trying to accomplish. And then he was caroused by the bad guys at the very end, by the hidden Quincy, and then who then was working alongside of them. But at the same time, is that any different between Naruto and Sasuke's um, differences that eventually led to them coming back over to the fold of the good guy side once they seen the error of their ways, no matter how arbitrary they might have been? It's just those things happen within shonen, but it's just that they always happen within shonen. Now you do get the now you do sometimes met with a villain that just won't stop, can't stop, and then is eventually killed. That happens, but when it does happen, it's not really in a way that that is more so justifiable as they had to go because they just had to go. It really is just because I'm trying to think about how like the dude ended with Bleach, the leader of the Quincy's, and it was just weird how that went down. But think back to Hunter x Hunter, the king of the Chimera ants. His whole thing at the end was that he just was willing to die with the girl that can play the weird little game or whatever, and just supposedly it was like it was leaving you with a sense of almost a pseudo redemption. He wasn't sad for the lives that he took or anything like that, but as far as the girl was concerned, he was a good guy. He was someone that she cared about. She was someone that she liked, and so because of that, we are left to believe that there must have been something good about him. Not taking into account the fact that if he ever won a game against her, he was going to immediately kill her, or the fact that he's been killing other people prior to the fact that she showed up, or because she was blind and unaware of all the things that was taking place beforehand, that she didn't know anything, but blah, 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 blah. It's just, the idea of redeeming and redemption is a big theme within Shonen. It's a big thing to do with their villains, as well as this weird pseudo concept to give you this impression that essentially these villains have a lot more going on with them than you are initially led to believe. There's way more under the surface. These characters should be sympathized with, not immediately hated. And if you got to know them, then you would understand exactly why they're so different. Why are these views so obtuse? Why should we care about this character's backstory and their wants and their hopes and their dreams and their desires? Because it's necessary for you to think that these things are important in order to justify this redemption that we might give them or they might have within the long standing or through the interactions with the main character that might have a clash of ideals. It's really kind of some forceful bullcrap that essentially is plastered in your face or is set there to make you think that someone is deeper than they actually are, when the concept of a character just being downright evil is now becoming a foreign concept when it comes to the Eastern writing, especially in shonen. Like, a character can't just be outright evil. No, there has to be some reason that they're evil, a sympathetic reason. But when they actually go outside the norm of doing things like that, they tend to be far more popular, or they tend to be far more enjoyed than anything else. But a perfect example would be like Yagami of the Death Note series. Now, this one is a stretch, considering that he is the main character, but at the same time he is the antagonist of the series. Because of the fact that the reason that everyone is hunting him down because he is mass murdering people doesn't change the fact that the story itself is revolved around him and his actions. But this is a character who is going around killing people and it feels absolutely no remorse for it whatsoever. We do not have a solemn, sad reason as to why he wishes to become the god of a new world. That's just what he wants. He has a megalomaniac and and a complete, about to say suicidal, but not suicidal, but essentially he has this world domination thing going for him, and the series itself does really well by using that fact. Light Yagami doesn't redeem himself at the end of the series. Hell, in fact, I feel that the anime kind of went soft on his ending, considering everything that he does, rather than what the original manga did, which is have him beg for his life and just beg for his life and cry as he didn't want to die, and he kind of went out as a pathetic being, as which he was actually portrayed, and what he should have what should have been shown up until his inevitable demise, because that's exactly who he was. Excuse me. But instead, if you looked at the anime, he walked away. Slow music was playing. He had his heart attack softly into the distance, and no one really saw it. But things happen. But what exactly does this mean with Dragon Ball Z? 20 minutes in, he hasn't said anything. Well, Dragon Ball Z doesn't do the whole redemption thing in a finite manner as other shonen do. The concept of believing that, throughout all the arcs, multiple characters basically joined up with the main group of Z Warriors, and that essentially was the enemy that joined with the Allies after each season, after each arc, is not as finite as you might believe, or as you might think. Let's consider the people who joined after the fact. Let's see. After the Saiyan saga, who did they gain? Nobody. Vegeta was more so someone working on his own, on his own accord, and then he more so joined up with them after the whole Frieza saga. Now then, who joined up with them on the Frieza saga? No. Again, they more so got Vegeta for that matter, but no one that was on Frieza's side. And they got Vegeta for that one. During the Android and Cell saga, eventually they got Android 18. And then during the Buu saga, then they got Majin Buu. And that's it. But let's go back to exactly how those things played out. And it's yes, they got a companion afterwards, but exactly what took place throughout those things that changes up the regular norm or motif of the typical shonen understanding. Let's see. Now this all begins with the with the Saiyan saga. They got Piccolo. Yeah, that was Piccolo. Yeah, I knew I was missing somebody. Yeah, they got Piccolo during the Saiyan saga, and then Namekian, and then the Frieza saga and everything. Got Vegeta, then Android. They got 18, and then Buu. They got Buu. So, what exactly So is that the same thing? Well, not entirely, because of the fact that the themes themselves are showcased throughout Dragon Ball Z. Now, I would wholeheartedly like to stipulate that I don't believe Akira Toriyama did this on purpose, but I'd like to think he was aware of the concept, considering that it is something that is brought to attention multiple times. And it starts all initially from when Raditz originally first shows up. Now, Dragon Ball Z immediately came out of the gate as being a different shonen than other shonens, by establishing something that basically broke away all concept and understanding of the original series that came prior to it, which is one of the reasons why I like to say Dragon Ball Z is its own thing, Dragon Ball is another thing. And I don't see why it's so hard for other people to actually, commit to that as well, especially when considering that people would then say Dragon Ball GT is something different, as well as Dragon Ball Super is something different. They are different. Just accept it. But let's get into the nitty gritty. So, within Dragon Ball, it originally opens up with Raditz, and this was the big shocker. Raditz was an alien. He was incredibly stronger than all of the other previously established characters, without having any past revelation or big lead up or build up to or anything like that. And it was revealed that he was Goku's brother. These three things totally decimate the original construct of most shonen, especially those that build up to fighting or battling between characters or anything like that. Not only that, but there was no World Martial Arts Tournament that went to fighting Raditz. There was no go through a slew of minions that he had in order to be able to defeat him. There was no learning or understanding a new technique or battle style in order to fight him. There was just an immediate defeat of both two strongest characters within the series, and then both strongest characters deciding to work together in order to defeat him. considering everything that was at hand, they ultimately still did not stand a chance. But through their own tenacity and the fact that they were able to beat him in the end was a testament to that aspect. But look at what happened to Raditz. Raditz died, and then he is never mentioned or brought up or even made apparent throughout the series ever again, because that was all his character was necessary for. While as you take another shonen, you take something like Naruto, Raditz's death should have led to a heap of backstory, a multitude of lore, a big old reveal of him being aware of these characters but just not doing anything, him having his own story that need to be fleshed out, when throughout the series of Dragon Ball Z, that is never a thing that anyone has ever asked for. When has anyone cared what the hell Raditz has been doing? When has anyone ever went out to say, I wonder what Raditz did up until the point that he landed on Earth? Did it matter? Did anyone care? No, they didn't. So, the fact that they did that was the first step into breaking apart and shaping what they had as the norm that essentially went way over the heads of other people who became fans of Dragon Ball Z, completely missed. It just, this was a concept that went way over their head, and they just did not grasp it. They saw the surface level stuff without digging any deeper, and this is what I mean. But before that, commercial break, real quick. Here we go. Now, what do I mean when I mean dig deeper? Well, the understanding behind Dragon Ball Z was one of the things that led up to during the Raditz. What did I mean of the understanding of breaking away from the status quo of Shonen happens within the Raditz fight. Now, this is something that happens, but it's brought up multiple times throughout Dragon Ball Z. And it's because of Goku's nature. Now, I'm pretty sure some people who are fans understand what I'm talking about, but for you laymen's, let's get into it. Now, there's a part in the fight between Raditz and Goku where Goku grabs Raditz's tail because he remembers that one of his major weaknesses was someone grabbing onto his tail. It would sap him of energy. This thing had the same thing happen to Raditz. Now then, with Raditz weakened, pinned to the ground, Piccolo ushering and screaming at Goku to finish him off, or to wait time for them to be able to finish him off, Raditz begins to plead for his life. See where I'm going with this? Now then, because of Goku's nature, this is someone who is the epitome, just the apex of good. Is someone who literally was hit with a technique in Dragon Ball where if you had any small evil thought whatsoever, it would implode you. And nothing happened to the guy. He is just a kind, sweet-hearted person. Goku has no wants or desires. The only thing he likes to do is fight and fight stronger people. That's not like he wants to be the strongest in the world. It's not as if he cares to be recognized as the greatest. He just enjoys a good fight. That's it. So he doesn't care for money. He doesn't care for jewels. He doesn't care about proving himself stronger to everyone else. He doesn't need all of that. That's why multiple times throughout Dragon Ball Z, Goku would not seek the fame or the recognition for actually saving the world, when this was known to happen like more than once. When he saved the world from Demon King Piccolo, he just left. When he was there during the Cell Saga, he didn't mention who he was or what he had anything to do. In fact, people couldn't tell who he was because of the Super Saiyan hair. But that's a running theme when it comes to Goku, is that he is selfless. He is someone who is nice. He can easily be fooled and manipulated and tricked, but that's just all equated to his good nature. So, when having someone like Raditz try to beg for his life and cry and all that, Goku inevitably lets go of the tail, despite the fact that Piccolo was like, this was a stupid mistake, and this is a chance that we might never get again. And Goku, you couldn't even say lack of a better, despite his better judgment, it was just lack of a better judgment. He let go of the tail and is immediately knocked on his ass. So, where am I going with this? Well then, what happens to Raditz at the end of Dragon Ball Z? When Goku gets a hold of him again, he holds on, and then he tells Piccolo, the only thing that you can possibly do, since I can't let go of him, is to kill us both. And again, that equates back to the selfless nature. He fooled me once, shame on me, and fooled me twice, it ain't gonna really happen. And that's kind of what goes on with Goku. And then Piccolo rightfully killed him and Goku. Killed Raditz and Goku. Now, afterwards, Piccolo's idea was the fact that he was going to be successful in killing Goku and Raditz, and then the world will be left for him to do with as he will. The problem that ushered in the next stage of events is the fact that Piccolo got wind from Raditz, both in his last dying breath, got wind of the fact that all their conversations were recorded and sent to other Saiyans who were way stronger than Raditz, thus stopping Piccolo's idea of trying to dominate the world when realistically I need to train in order to fight for said world for me to control it anyway. So that's what leads with that. But at the same time, Raditz doesn't get a redeeming quality throughout the entire time that you see him. There is nothing that happens with Raditz that makes them go, well, we should wish him back in case that, and hope that he fights for our side or anything like that. Nope. Nope. Never brought up again. Never, doesn't even matter. Hell, when Vegeta and Nappa show up, they have Cybermen who are just as strong as Raditz, so who cares about Raditz? But this leads into what happens later. Now, during the Saiyan fight, after Nappa is killed by Vegeta, and Vegeta, who subsequently didn't kill anybody, is, after beating everyone bloodied, bruised, and badly broken, everyone else on their last leg of energy. Goku barely able to even speak properly. Well, his ribs are crushed. So, Krillin has a sword in his hand, raising above his head, and about to strike and kill Frieza. Vegeta. My bad. Going ahead of myself, about to kill Vegeta. And then he is stopped by Goku. Goku, who then tells Krillin that it wouldn't be right to kill Vegeta, simply because he wants to fight him again. The idea of fighting someone as strong as Vegeta, or the concept that someone out there in the universe could get this strong to the point where it pushed me to my very limit, is far more idealistic to go after again, rather than to stop him from killing anyone ever again, or to harming the people ever again. And this moment of this moment of selfishness, you can equate throughout the rest of the Dragon Ball Z series as something that could be either a good thing or a bad thing. Now, a lot of people right now would argue with me that, yeah, like, if Vegeta was to have been murdered, then there goes so many moments within Dragon Ball Z which needed Vegeta in order to happen. Hell, them being on Namek couldn't have went down the way that it went down without Vegeta. True. Things that happened during the Android saga couldn't have went down without Vegeta. You need Vegeta to help fight Kid Buu during the end of Dragon Ball Z. All these things are true. All these things are true. But let us not forget, there's just as many fucked up moments between Vegeta as there are good moments between Vegeta. So, even though, the stuff that took down on planet Namek happened, let's also not forget Vegeta, when he landed on planet Namek, killed and wiped out an entire village of Namekians. Hit a Dragon Ball. Then went to, but then he also was responsible for killing a plethora of Frieza's clunkies. Clunkies. And then it's like, well, then you go to during the Android saga, when Vegeta was responsible for defeating Android 19, back when Goku himself was suffering from the heart attack. But Vegeta is also responsible for allowing Cell to become perfect, back when he was totally strong enough to be able to defeat him. But he let that happen. And then you got during the Buu saga, where Vegeta was more than willing and ready in order to being able to stop Dabura and Babidi from summoning Buu, but instead allowed himself to get taken over so he can fight Goku to his fullest without having anything hold him back. Completely unreserved. So none of the soft emotions and feelings that he was getting through the years by having a family or being with loved ones. He wanted to forego all of that in order to fight Goku. And it showcased when he killed a bunch of people at the World Martial Arts Tournament and then also allowed Boo to get as strong as he possibly did. Now then, Vegeta tried to redeem himself by blowing himself up, but at the same time, one, it didn't do anything to Boo, as you found out that Boo was able to recreate himself from just even the smallest parts of him being blown up. But also, when Vegeta died, he was subsequently told, when you die, you will go to hell, which is where he went. So, these things, to me, give a 50-50 understanding of exactly Vegeta's importance throughout the series. He's responsible for a lot of negative, but he's also responsible for a lot of positive. But that, therein lies the crux. So, if Vegeta was never saved, does that mean, like, everything would have went bad for Dragon Ball Z? Or does that mean that things could have been, even better in Dragon Ball Z? Who knows? But that's not the antithesis of the story, or the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that in Dragon Ball Z, there are multiple times in which characters are given this understanding or this ideal or this situation between someone that they're fighting, where that very concept of that everyone can be forgiven, or that there's some people who can redeem themselves, some people who can just go, I'm sorry, and they actually mean it, doesn't really fucking exist. As much good that Vegeta has done within Dragon Ball Z, he is responsible for a hell of a lot of negative as well. He's someone who spent his entire life enjoying killing multitudes of planet full of people, as well as being around and blowing up planets left and right, just as a fucking child, let alone as an adult. Yet, most likely, even at the end of everything within Dragon Ball Z, when Vegeta dies, he should very much well still go to hell. Now, I'm pretty sure Super is going to circumvent that, but hey, not a real thing. But at the same time, therein lies the weird crux of Vegeta's character. But this all stemmed from Goku allowing Vegeta to be let live. But what happened is that Vegeta wasn't a character who, when he was left alone in order to continue to survive, even after he joined with the main characters, continued to just stay outright good, eventually fading into the background, much like Yamcha or Tien Shinhan, where it was just a given overall status that they're good guys now, but then other strong people show up and then they join the fold as well, so they'll be pushed to the wayside. Now, it's a raw deal to say that about Tien Shinhan, considering that he is incredibly important in two different arcs following the Namekian arc when he was dead, because he's there during the Buu saga as well as the Android saga, and he's a necessity of a character. Hell, same thing with Yamcha, really, only after he dies in the Buu saga. But I'm just giving an example of the fact of just, they were characters who were major characters within the original Dragon Ball series, and now within the secondary series, they kind of got pushed to the wayside. Rightfully so, but it wasn't in a way that made them completely forgettable. So, I got him getting credit on that. Same thing with Krillin. Like a lot of people want to bash on Krillin, but it's like at the same time, Krillin's responsible for so much shit. So, I give credit where credit is due. But then, let's go further into that mindset and that concept. Then you have, essentially Goku and his forgiving nature. He tried to forgive Raditz, tried to forgive Vegeta. Then it's like, well, when everything came to a head at the end of the Frieza saga, what took place? Well, a very major, important incident took place. Frieza, lying there cut in half after he cut himself in half, was lying there begging for help when Goku gives a very justified and rousing speech. After all the people that you've murdered, after all the lives that you have taken, the fact that you laugh in the face of, genocide as if it's a game to you, these are things that you've done on a regular basis with all your power. Right now, you're begging for help. How many people have you heard beg for help that you've done nothing for? And you believe that I'm just supposed to help you right now. And Frieza gave no reply aside from still screaming out, help. So then what happened? Goku, with his gentle nature, gave Frieza help. He gave him energy, enough energy to make him float around and stay alive. The fact that Frieza then earlier told him that his people are capable of breathing in space, so he has no problem with the planet exploding, also gave more notion for Goku to go, well then, you have no problem. Like, there's nothing for you to worry about. What did Frieza do while he given this newfound energy? He started criticizing his savior. he began to just ridicule and talk about Goku and the fact that he's going to fucking die. That there's nothing he can do. He's on a planet that's about to explode and he's just going to fucking die. Like, and just mocking and ridiculing him. And he's like, you idiot. Like, you're stupid. You gave energy to someone who... And it's like what do you think? Like, I'm sorry? You think that anything's gonna, like, I'm gonna change my ways or anything like that? And I was like, no, motherfucker, like, you're going to die. I'm gonna keep on living. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. And then afterwards, Goku just gave him a sly remark. You know, it was like, it doesn't matter if you continue to live or if you don't. You'll know that you were defeated by a Saiyan. And that's all that I need. And then, you know, and it was like, I'm you know, he said the beautiful line of, I'm just a monkey, right? I love that part. And he flies away. And then, even though Goku was flying away, no longer interested in anything that was happening with Frieza, he didn't care, didn't bother with him. He was just still going to try and find a way to survive regardless. And Frieza could have just took this energy, left, found a way to reconstruct his body if that's what his people are capable of doing. And signs showed that, yeah, they were. He was more than capable of actually just letting this go and either, you know, living to fight another day or coming back for revenge later on. And he didn't. Frieza attacks Goku, and then Goku subsequently sees that he's wasting the very life that he then saved to get one final shot, just to still try and kill you. Even though your back is turned, you're not even paying attention to me. Just because I want to kill you, I'm going to kill you. And Goku returns the gesture by saying, you fool, shooting a one-handed Kamehameha at him, and then believing that he killed Frieza. You know, signs point later that he didn't. But that, again, is something that essentially breaks away from the regular norm within the shonen. The main character sat there and forgave and was willing to forget about a villain who essentially was more villainous than anyone has ever seen before. And in the end, it bit him in the ass. Like, there was nothing to it. There was no story or someone crying out to Goku that, hey, just leave him alone. Just, he's a sad creature. Just, he's no threat to you anymore. Just let him be. No, he didn't get that. What he got was his actions biting him in the ass, as it rightfully should have, and then he had to act upon it immediately. Now, it was later revealed that Frieza isn't dead, but like, just for name's sake, at the point in time when you were looking at it, as far as you were concerned, Frieza was still alive. Frieza was dead. And so then we travel to where this epiphany that I got came from, up into the Cell Saga. So after the Android Saga, into the Cell Saga. That's where this theme, of this weird ideal of forgiveness, redemption, being sorry, being sorrowful towards your enemy, and you know, trying to find a better way than to just flat out killing or anything like that, comes to a head to me within Dragon Ball Z. And it's perfectly depicted within the battle between Gohan and Cell. Now, there's multiple moments within the Trunk Saga, Android Saga, Cell, the Cell Form Saga, the Perfect Cell Saga, and the Cell games. Like, there's multiple incidents in which this is kind of something that is brought up. As powerful and strong as 16 is, he only cares to do two things: enjoy life and try to kill Goku. But trying to kill Goku is his programming. As far as we are concerned, the enjoying life aspect is actually a horrible miscalculation on Dr. Giro's part, which is what led to 16 being classified as a failure, because he's not out to just warrant random destruction, much like 17 and 18 are presumed to do after they kill Goku. which is what we are told by Trunks. But at the same time, the androids are different because he happened to go back in time, but that's his own kettle of fish and whatnot, blah, 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 blah. But we have moments in which, after everything is all said and done, Trunks gives the story of what all is happening. Then we get another moment of Goku's generosity and kindness again. Because Dr. Gero hasn't committed any evil, Goku then stipulates that it would not be right for us to try and kill him. The fact that we know he's going to commit to something, we can train to fight it, and that'll be that. But to outwardly just go looking for this guy and trying to kill him is wrong. It is even backed up by Vegeta, who also iterates that yes, Saiyan pride wouldn't allow us to just try and do this now. No, and it was like, but at the same time, it also goes to Goku's arrogance of wanting a good fight. So there's that. But again, that concept of generosity is then proven. Whether it's proven good or proven bad, that's for your own discretion. But Dr. Gero does wipe out almost half of South City, isn't it? South of South City, wipes out almost half of South City. At the same time, is responsible for waking the other androids that then go on unleashed and everything like that. And then he also created Cell. But these things happen, But then we get to the nitty-gritty, the thing that sparked this epiphany, if I will. And that's during the Gohan and Cell fight. And it's a beautiful moment, but I'm pretty sure, like I said, a lot of people haven't really seen the episodes like that. But while watching that part is when it hit me. And that's when 16 says it. And to me, I was like, it's a beautiful moment, and it's a beautiful... it's a concept. I'm not to say beautiful, but it's a wonderful concept and notion that honestly is far more true than anything I've ever seen in typical shonen. And as when 16's head was next to Gohan, he was telling him it's okay to let go. There's certain people who you cannot reason with. There are certain people who have to die in order to make sure everyone else can live. Now again, this has been a running theme throughout all of Dragon Ball Z that you have seen multiple times. If Frieza was to have just left Goku alone and went on his own ways and didn't seek revenge as badly as he was, because that's the type of person that he was, could he have continued to conquer the known galaxy? Yes, he could have. He could have still been committing genocides and killing a whole bunch of people, but because of Goku's gentle nature in the aspect of it, it allowed Frieza to live. Which shouldn't have happened, because, in all honesty, the universe would have been a better place without this guy. He was horrible, but you were equated with a character who is gentle by nature, and he just doesn't see things like that. And so then you have the same mindset when it comes to Gohan, who has shown himself to not only be gentle in nature, but is someone who actually doesn't like fighting. The opposite of Goku in that aspect, who is gentle in nature, but enjoys fighting, and Gohan does not. So when reached with that opposition, you now have him faced with an enemy who is just inherently cruel and evil. Cell enjoyed absorbing people. He liked the idea of doing all this in order to become perfect. He felt that it was incredibly necessary. He didn't need to become perfect. He wanted to become perfect. And now that he was perfect and he was capable of killing everybody, his mindset was not to go about just mass murdering people. No, it was to show off his perfection before he went off to just destroy and destroy, because nothing could beat him. He is perfect. So, thus leading up to the Cell Games. So, when 16 was confronting Gohan with this, and he said what he said, the idea behind it takes away so much from the typical shonen norm. The breakaway that a character is presented with the opposition that it is okay to kill somebody if it's all for the better, for the greater good, is a theme that is never brought up in any shonen. No one thinks that way. Most things are either hid by some weird form of bureaucracy, or it's done under the guise of ideals clashing together, where a main character will be more so enthralled to convince the main villain to stop what he's doing, rather than actually to defeat them and kill them to stop what they're doing. Now, the villain can be presented to do horrible things, but that doesn't change that the main character's mindset will try to get a moral victory over than an actual victory. And I say this because I'm someone who, yes, moral victories are a thing, but does that ultimately stop the horrible transgressions that happened? Because now you've reached this moral quandary of, yeah, maybe I was wrong. Does that excuse your crimes? Does that make everything go away? Does that give closure to the people who are insanely harmed by your actions? No. But as long as you got a moral victory, that's okay. Now again, that stems back from the Journey to the West concepts and mindsets and how they handled everything. But within that story, that was a necessity. You were dealing with someone who was traveling around with Buddhist scriptures and believing that peace and love and kindness can overcome all. Awkwardly enough throughout the story is that that's not what helps him pass. It's the fact that the Monkey King and the Ox Guy and all of them, or the Pig Guy and all of them actually fight for him, helps him pass through. His blind loyalty to the ideas of just praying and hoping and believing things are going to turn out okay don't actually make things turn out okay. But that's the mindset that's given, awkwardly enough. And so, when you have a series like Dragon Ball Z, in which case, when Gohan first fought Cell, he literally came up to him and told him, I think I understand why my father wants me to fight you. You see, I get angry and I lose control. This appeases Cell. Rather, it was something that Gohan thought would be a deterrent. It actually made Cell want to fight him. So then by that gentle nature actually trying to appease to his better half, it made Cell send out Cell Juniors, who then were harming and hurting his friends and his family. This caused Gohan to get angry. This caused his power level to start rising, which made Cell want to do it even more, while Gohan was pleading and begging, please stop, no, I don't want to hurt you, I don't want to fight, I don't know why this is happening, and it just made Cell want to keep pushing. So then, when it got to the point of 16 talking to Gohan, that's what made that drive home so much the concept of the fact of it's okay to kill in the name of peace, or just the fact that you cannot convince certain people to not do bad things. Certain people enjoy doing bad things, and it's no fault of your own if you have to stop them. You should not blame yourself for doing the right thing, because it is the right thing. And when it gets to the point of 16 being killed in front of Gohan, someone who was literally had everything taken away from him. He was just a head. He was no threat to Cell whatsoever. He could do absolutely nothing. All he was doing was talking. But it was something that Cell looked upon and just in an act of cruelty decided to destroy. He stepped on 16's head right in front of Gohan, and he felt nothing because of it. And this is one of the things that made Gohan snap and cross over to a line in which he just was out of it. And then it made him transform into Super Saiyan 2, who, because of what they did, who was inherently cruel. He defeated all the Cell Juniors in one hit, and he wanted Cell to suffer because of the things that he did. Now, this bit Gohan in the ass, because when he let his power overtake him, and then he became the one to issue out the suffering rather than being the sufferer, it allowed for Cell to get adamantly weaker, but then far more desperate. In which case Goku was even pleading to Gohan that it would be better to just destroy him rather than just toy with him. But again, just different natures conflicting in different aspects. Then you had a moment in which Cell came back. Goku sacrificed himself. Cell came back, and then even in the midst of the final clash, when Gohan was fighting Cell, Goku had an epiphany in which he was thinking Gohan's still holding back. Why? Because he was scared of what he might do to the planet after everything's all over with. In which Goku had to tell him, we can wish back all the damage that we've done. You don't need to hold back. Just kill this guy. And again, there was the mindset of the ideals that, I'm still thinking about doing good in the wake of not, in the wake of this opponent who I should just be thinking about getting rid of. But nature, that was their nature. But it just struck a chord with me, seeing that, uh, as that's something that essentially no shonen does. There rarely is a character that's presented within the shonen who is inherently a mastermind behind a whole bunch of evil and equates to the fact that they wanted to do a bunch of evil that isn't given some type of weird sympathetic backstory. Hell, even Cell's backstory is something that you look upon and you feel absolutely nothing for, as it is the backstory of someone who was born with the idea that you can be so much more as long as you go through horrible lengths in order to accomplish it. And when given that choice, they commit to the horrible lengths that they need to in order to accomplish it. And that is just, it's fascinating to me. I find that crazy, because of the fact that so many anime and manga copy from Dragon Ball Z. But yet, something that was basically an underlying theme, but it mattered so much to everything that was going on, can just be missed, like, by everyone else who happened to copy it. It's fascinating to me. I find that incredibly, incredibly odd that you could sit there, look at a series, watch it, and take subject matter from it from just face value. The the idea that every villain in your series can have some type of sad, sympathetic backstory, or can be redeemed in some nature and whatnot, is beyond idiotic to me, if you will. I find it completely unrealistic, simply because that's not how the world actually works. Now, shonen in general is catered towards young boys, but at the same time, you look at certain things that are on the shonen roster, and it could be anything other than just something that you would expect a child to be interested in. Much like with Death Note, a very thought-provoking series is a shonen, but it's very thought-provoking. Something that you have to sit there and ponder and theorize about and question and guess who, detectives type stuff, but an interesting series nonetheless. But because it broke away from the typical shonen motifs, actually gave itself a far more positive outlook, or to be worldwide recognized than anything else. While as with other series, you kind of don't really get that. You have parts where main characters essentially are fighting another villain, and then they break down the villain, who then reveals their tragic backstory, and then it's just oh, maybe, oh, it's like, is it wrong to defeat you? Is it bad? Should I not? Oh no, I'm caught within the crossroads. When ultimately it would be far more enjoyable. Well, not, I shouldn't even say enjoyable. That's not a right way to say. But ultimately, it would be a lot more eloquent to actually have a situation or a character who can't be reasoned with. Someone who the main character can't get through. Someone that the main character essentially has to understand that this person is going to do the things that they're going to do unless I stop them. So how can I stop them? And whether or not they think of a more humane way of stopping them, they have a roundabout way of getting them to just ultimately quitting, rather than it being that, just a join my force, join forces with me because you're agreeing with me now. It just something along those lines of just being different than just straight up, I defeated you. We're friends now. you know, let's all party as if this is an okay thing. I I don't understand uh, why that's not such a finite thing within the shonen genre. Considering the fact that a lot of the genre itself stems to um, popularize different aspects that break away from the typical shonen norm throughout the years, rather than popularize the things that copy the same cookie cutter story over and over and over again. And it's like they still continue to make these cookie cutter stories, but the ones that stem out and continue to be popular and are looked upon with great admiration are the ones that are against the norm. Like they go against the grain. Take for instance Black Clover, which essentially just has way too many shonen motifs, shonen cliches in it to actually be something that would have been popularized. While as the pacing of the series, I felt is phenomenal, as it just was so fast paced and just there. Immediately from this play, we're going to immediately do this. Immediately from this, we're going to immediately do that. But the overall antithesis of the story is similar to everything else. Hell, one of the major villains that was brought up throughout the series were the elves, who just, at the end of everything, were just shown to be misunderstood. Like, oh, well, you guys just were lied to. And it's like, well, these guys have been mass murdering people and thought that it was okay to mass murdering people for all these years. Right, but they were lied to. So, all is forgiven. And that's essentially all that they've done. And that's all that they continue to do. And so exactly what is there to be understood? I mean, look at the popularity of Frieza. Frieza is Dragon Ball Z's most popular villain. So popular that when Dragon Ball Super started up, they brought Frieza back to life because it's just a fan favorite villain. But what has Frieza done that should have put him in the realm of being someone who we would sympathize or allow to be a character that works with our heroes rather than someone who innately should be an enemy forever, or should just be put into the enthralls of a villain that they fought that was one of the biggest issues or biggest problems at that time, who now within the wayside is just like an afterthought. But still something that we should look back on and go like, oh, let's not forget Frieza. You know, remember when Frieza was the threat? And it completely undermined that. They completely undermined that concept because Frieza was basically the first character to bring upon that thesis, really, to me, which is that realistically, Frieza was a genocidal maniac who was led by his hatred and revenge to his own demise multiple times. His hatred of Goku led him to attack him, which what got him supposedly killed in the beginning. And then his hatred of Goku, when he was found and brought back to life, allowed him to go back to Earth with his father, which led to him being killed by Trunks. I'm about to say killed by Trunks again, but led him to be killed again, but this time by Trunks. And then this time for good. Now you can also equate to the fact that they needed that in order to justify Trunks' power, so you can sit there and go, well, you know, like, he's a Super Saiyan, so, like, the mystery of this new Super Saiyan is coming out of the way, but it's DBZ jargon, I'm not dying about that, but the idea is the same. Well, like, the point I'm trying to make is that they did that with his character, is that Frieza was someone who couldn't be talked down to. He couldn't be manipulated. He couldn't be convinced that he was in the wrong. He was just an evil bastard. But yet, he was a fan favorite villain from all Dragon Ball Z fans. Now, bringing him back because people like him completely undermined and destroyed the concept of his villainy, because now he became, much like with Vegeta, a walking joke. But at the time, before Super, just within the series, there'd be multiple encounters and multiple times in which Frieza's name would still be brought up within their story, or still be a reference to a time in which they all struggled, or everyone almost lost their life, or everyone did lose their life because Frieza subsequently killed them. And it shows, and it was a testament to exactly the threat and the heinous actions that they had when it came to Frieza. Hell, Cell was made up of some of Frieza's blood. And, you know, and it was like just to add home how bad a mamma jamma Frieza was. Excuse me. But it was just, it's something that Dragon Ball Z had a lot going on for it. which to me is one of the reasons why I hold it in such high regard over shonen anime, over other shonen anime, than the kind of stuff that I see out today. Because every person that you meet in life who might come across as a bad guy, or who might come across as, evil or whatever, not all of them can be redeemed. Yes, the Journey to the West and the Buddhist scriptures following the teachings of Buddha and whatnot might dictate otherwise, but life also has dictated otherwise. And I just felt that it was a far more compelling concept within Dragon Ball Z to preach the aspect of appreciating and loving life should not come with the hindrance that means that you can't do something that you might inherently disagree with, but it's a necessity. Because that's life. You're not going to be presented with everything that makes you comfortable in order for you to survive. Someday you might get trapped on a deserted island, and if you happen to be a vegan, but the only thing that are around to eat are rabbits, you're gonna have to bite that bullet and start eating the rabbit, dude. So you might not like it, but you need to survive. But that's just, it's just far more than ideals that clash. Sometimes it's simply black and white. Sometimes it's simply black and white. Sometimes it's way more complicated than that. But the fact that Dragon Ball Z has had a story that gave us those multitudes of understanding a character, whether it be the villain or the good guy, to me far outweighs any mind clash that Naruto had when it came to the ideas of wanting friends and loved ones all come together and banding together and stopping all wars over just constantly making wars in order to bring about some symbolism of peace, because there's no way peace can just last forever. And then clashing with the idea of someone going, peace can last forever, we just have to work hard at it. I don't care about that. That's not something that rings throughout my head that I think about and ponder over or enjoy seeing the difference of. Like I said, one of my favorite scenes in Dragon Ball Z, in the beginning when I talked about it, see, it all come back circle. In the very beginning, I liked sitting down, watching 16 say what he say to Gohan, Cell killing 16, and then Gohan turning into Super Saiyan 2 to fight Cell. I enjoy that scene. I love that scene. Simply because of what it represents. It was a moment in which a character who, at this point in time, we know, or you have seen, be incredibly gentle by nature. Someone who does not like to fight. Someone who you could have told to Goku doesn't like to fight like you do. Like, someone you understood Goku's son better than he ever did. And if you were in the series, you could tell him, yeah, he doesn't like fighting like that, dude. Was given was put in a situation where he had to be told by another character who essentially was possibly one of the gentlest people we've ever seen in this entire series. Tell him outright that sometimes it's okay to kill. And there's just some people out there that can't be reasoned with, and you have to kill. Because if you don't, they're going to do a hell of a lot worse. And having that moment, to me, is far more pertinent than any type of frenemy situation that has ever been presented in any shonen after Dragon Ball Z. And the fact that no other shonen has even had the balls to equate or commit to such a harsh reality or a harsh concept for a character speaks volumes in terms of the overall aesthetics of where shonen storytelling is going to go and the route that shonen storytelling is actually attempting to make. Or the route that they're attempting to make. The route that they're attempting to make in terms of progressing their storytelling. And that's that's all of it. So, with that being said, I'm going to end it here, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Fun with Flame. Um, this has been your host, Daniel the Flame. Check out my comic carpet done by me and my friends. The links will be in the description of this podcast. But you can pick it up on Amazon. And you can also go to our Instagram at these guys, at it's these guys. Yeah. And you can check it out. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who listened. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. This has been Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Daniel the Flame, and as always, good people. I hope you had fun. I did hand gestures right then and there, but I forgot that I'm on a goddamn podcast, so you can't see the hand gestures. But can you hear it? Do you hear me waving my hands? This is so fucking stupid sometimes. I'm just dumb. Okay, that's it. Hey, before you go, I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more content, which is sure to come. If you want me to discuss a topic, by all means, please leave a comment below and I'll definitely make sure that I'll get to it. You can check me out on any platform that basically hosts podcasts. Just type in Fun with Flame and I'm sure you'll find something. Don't worry about that. But as always, I just sincerely want to say thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Daniel the Flame, and as always, good people, I hope you had some fun.